And we're live. All right. I'm here right now with Dr. Anne McCloskey. Uh, I'll forget which section of political science you have your degree in.
Comparative international political economy. I wanted
All
I wanted to be marketable.
Yep. We've known each other a while here. Um, and of course, you've also known some other people much more famous than me, quite intimately. Um, Bernie Sanders. You have any
Yes.
stories about Bernie Sanders here?
At the 1981 Socialist Party convention, I met Bernie. He was the keynote speaker, and I was the musical entertainment. And we got to know each other. And on the Staten Island ferry, he came over to me and said, "You're the one that knows the Hipsel songs." And I was, yeah, I know a few of them. So we sang on the Staten Island ferry. I don't know why he always criticizes his singing voice. He's got a fine singing voice. He sounds like Bernie when he sings, but he sings quite well.
Well, he has a little bit of a brusque voice.
He does.
It's not a smooth voice,
It's not a
but
smooth voice. No, it's like whiskey. You have to
mhm.
acquire a taste.
Yeah. I think I
Well,
need to hear him sing at this point.
no,
No,
unless you want me to. I think
no, not
it's
you.
within its
Him,
the hat.
him. But uh, yep, you knew him. I understand you went to the Soviet Union with him at one point.
No, I did
No.
not. No, I heard his stories about going to the Soviet Union, but no, I did not go with him.
Oh, you didn't go with him. Oh,
No.
okay. All right. And of course, you also have stories about George Carlin.
Well, let me finish the story about Bernie. I was
Oh,
working for the UAW, and my boss was Bernie's best friend in high school. So
okay.
Paul Topinski and Bernie Sanders were best friends in high school. So I'll always remember how my boss used to talk, as long as Bernie's around. And so I had been sent to Bernie's office in D.C. and Saul, his name was actually Solomon, but everybody called him Saul. Uh, Sent Bernie a message. I guess it was an early text message, and I got to his office and I was ushered in to see the congressman. And Bernie says, "I don't understand. Saul said he was sending his son, and you look nothing like him." We get that a lot, Congressman. We hear that quite a bit. I'm probably I'm probably as close to him as his son could be, but no, we're not related by blood. And so I was in Vermont doing something for the union, and I called Bernie's office and said I'd like to meet with him. And they, no cell phones back then. I got to another payphone, called, and they said the senator can't meet with you, but he'd like you to come to his house.
Oh,
So, I was entertained by, then Senator and Doctor Mary Jane Sanders, and I was entertained. God, they're funny.
are they?
They are two of the funniest people I've ever had dinner with. My sides hurt from laughing. You wouldn't get that from seeing them on video, but no, they could be Stiller and Mira.
Yeah, Bernie doesn't seem like a funny guy. He seems extremely serious from what I've seen. But
Exactly. Believe me, when he's not being serious, he could be a comedian.
not bad,
Not bad.
not bad. But it sounds like that's a natural breaking off point for your Bernie
Yes, that's
story.
it.
Yep.
That's it.
Now, George Carlin, I remember you also talking about
Yeah,
having met.
I did. I was, I think, 19, and I drove from Johnstown, Pennsylvania to Columbus, Ohio to see Carlin perform. He was not a big star at this point. He was a star, but not where he ended up. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a couple of his records, and I thought he was just as funny as hell. Oh, I wanted to see him. Couldn't get any of my friends to go along, so I drove by myself to Columbus. Didn't have a whole lot of money. I was a college student then, and so paid for my ticket, and I think I got a Coke and waited for the show. It was funny. Oh God, he was funny. And I saw him going into the dressing room. I said, "Hey George, I got a joke for you." You know, everybody does. And I said, "No, would you listen?" He said, "You look like a hippie. Come on in. Come on in my dressing room." And he sat down, lit a cigarette, and said, "Okay, give it to me. Do you want to hear the joke? It's a little foul."
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Give the joke. Give the
no
joke.
problem. I said to George, "Why are people angry when they're pissed off? Wouldn't you be angrier if you were pissed on? The guy pissed on me, and boy, was I pissed off." George laughed. He said, "I'll give you an A for the imitation and an A minus for the joke. How much do you want for it?" What do you mean? So I'll pay you for the joke. I'll buy it. I want to buy it. I want you to buy it. I'd like you to use it, but no, I don't want you to buy it. And he said, "Are you staying for the second show?" And I said, "No, I can't afford it, frankly." And he said, "There are two seats, stage left, that I always reserve for my wife and my manager. And I called them, neither one of them's coming. So go find yourself a date. Maybe you'll get lucky and see the second show." When he told that joke, he asked me to stand up. Stand up so the crowd can see.
Mm-hmm.
This is the guy that gave me the joke. 14 years later, I'm watching him on HBO. He's, "Yeah, I went to this joke, and a guy in Cleveland gave me this joke." Oh, I cried when Carlin died. Oh,
It's a shame. He died way too young.
yes.
I could think of several comedians be better to have gone first,
Uh huh.
yeah, he died. I mean, he wasn't like super young, but he was too young for where he should have been.
Hmm.
But we can go back to Bernie. I know Bernie apparently posted on Twitter that the election was lost because Democrats are not um, recognizing the needs of the average worker, and they keep going too far to the right.
Hmm.
We have plenty of uh, right wing politicians who are blaming it that apparently Kamala Harris was running too far to the left, and that's why they lost. I'm not sure exactly what left wing stance she had. Hey, let me chum around with Dick Cheney doesn't seem like a super imposing left wing thing. But what is your take on the whole thing? What do you think happened?
I agree with Bernie that the Democratic Party has just ignored the working class, and an awful lot of those working people have migrated to the MAGA movement. Uh, Kamala Harris was in town, like my town, Johnstown, PA, to campaign, and I was one of four people demonstrating against her stance on Gaza, and there were about 25 MAGA people. And the cops they separated people by pro Harris and anti Harris. So we were anti Harris, so we had to stand with the MAGA people. And they weren't bad folk. I mean, they're real confused, but they're not bad people. And we went for beers afterwards, and we talked. I don't think we agreed on much, but I don't know how to build socialism without workers.
Yep, not every Republican is a bad person, but it is certainly bad people who are calling the shots and
Oh,
everything.
yeah, very bad people.
And you look at the actual policies, but just so that people aren't confused, now you're anti-Harris. What exactly are your political affiliations?
I'm a Democratic Socialist. I have been since I was 10. My mother insisted that I sit and watch Norman Thomas, who was the first guest on Bill Buckley's The Firing Line. And I was impressed. I was really glad that my mother made me sit and watch it. And I said to my mother, "Can I call Mr. Thomas?" So, where are you going to call him at? In the Socialist Party office? And she said, "Oh, all right." Phone calls to New York at that point cost about $5. And that was a lot of money. But my mother
Hmm.
let me do it. And the Socialist Party office informed me that Mr. Thomas wasn't in every day. Okay. I was disappointed, but, understood. He called me back. Norman Thomas called me back.
Hmm.
And we talked for 15 minutes on his dime. He called a 10-year-old child. So I decided I would join the Socialist Party as soon as they would let me. And A. Philip Randolph was in town for a gala that was put on by the AFL-CIO and the NAACP. I'm a kid. I'm 12. I don't know any better. I walked up to Mr. Randolph and said, "Comrade Randolph." He looked at me, bent down, and said, "Why are we comrades?" I said, "Because you're an officer in the Socialist Party, and I want to join as soon as I'm old enough." He said, "Why don't you join the Young People's Socialist League?" I said, "You got to be 14. I said, "How old are you?" I said, 12. He said, "You know that place where it says endorser? The person that asked you to join? Put my name in there. I bet they take you." And my father came to rescue Mr. Randolph from me. He's grabbing, he's pulling me away, and um, Randolph reaches over. They called him Big Phil for a reason. Reaches over and grabs my father and says, "Sir, I don't usually comment on the way people raise their children. But whatever you're doing, please keep doing it."
Ah,
My father floated back to his seat.
not bad. Not
Yeah.
bad.
A. Philip Randolph thought he was raising his kid right. So when I immediately sent in my application to the Young People's Socialist League and then later joined the Socialist Party. And I've been a member of whatever seemed like the extension of the Socialist Party ever since. When the split came in 1972, I joined all three branches.
Okay. I did not think you were part of the Socialist Party USA for a big chunk of that.
No, I joined the Socialist Party USA in 1974.
Right, you joined there, but you said ever since. Like, are you? I don't think you remember right now.
Nope, I will be next month. I don't have the money to join this month.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that.
I really
But
am for left regroupment and left refoundation.
I'm sorry.
I am for left regroupment and left refoundation.
Yeah, we definitely need to get everything sorted back out.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, get a movement going, and big thing is it can't be. We have multiple parties. There's good reason that we have multiple parties. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of diversity of opinion on the left. Uh, but we have, I think we have to electorally work together for a while until we're able to fix the system and make it actually democratic.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah.
That's why we founded the Debs Caucus. It came from an idea that the late and much lamented, oh, good, I forgot his name, David McReynolds, um, had a senior moment there. Uh, he had this idea of a caucus above party where everybody could join, work together, and still remain in whatever political formation they were in before. That's what we're trying to do. That was my commercial.
Which is definitely a good thing to do. And that's the Debs Caucus,
Debs Caucus. We're on
SDUSA.
Facebook. Uh, it came out of the SDUSA, but we've had people from Socialist Party, Committees of Correspondence, DSA.
All right. And I do think we do need to clarify for some people watching, because I don't think your average YouTube viewer is quite aware of Socialist Party history.
No.
Now, the Socialist Party of America was founded in 1901.
Hmm.
out of consolidation of a few parties, including Deb's previous party. I don't remember exactly which one that was. The
There's Social Democracy
farmers,
of
some.
America. Social Democracy of America.
Okay. Well, anyways, we have that. We have it swells, then you have it splinter after a while. I think it's after Trotsky left, because did have Leon Trotsky when he was fleeing Stalin. What and was in New York.
No, that
Was a
was
member
before
of
the
the Social
revolution,
Party of
actually.
America for a while. What?
The old man was in New York before the revolution.
Oh, he's before the revolution.
He
I thought
left
it
New
was
York.
after.
No, it was before the revolution. He joined the Socialist Party. Um, and when the revolution broke out, he went back to Russia.
Okay.
He was the only
Um,
broom maker in New York with a car and a phone.
yeah, and I know the reaction to the Soviet Union after Stalin took power
Hmm.
was a key factor of uh, the splintering. People are a lot were splitting on how they felt about the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
Was it actually a good thing, or was it a monstrosity that came out of good rhetoric, or whatever the case may be? And so you're going on. Debs dies. Norman Thomas, who called you back,
Hmm.
was
Ryan
the
was a friend of my
was
parents.
the person who sort of took over in the party.
Hmm.
Worked closely with Martin Luther King Jr.
Very closely.
Was going to. There was a plan for a moment there that he and Norman Thomas were going to run together in 1968.
That's
King had
true.
died before the convention,
Hmm.
assassinated, and that is also where everything splintered, because the Shockmanites, who had come over from another socialist party, I believe is one of the splinter groups.
They came from the Independent Socialist League.
Okay. Um, they they decided, no, we're changing the name to Social Democrats of America, and we're not running a candidate. We're going to back the Democratic Party. This is in the middle of fucking Vietnam that they
Uh-huh.
decided they're going to do that. And just a bunch of people left in protest. That's what caused the splintering. And you had three different groups that basically came out of that in the end. One being the Socialist Party USA, which was dedicated to independent political action. Then you had the SDUSA, which is at that time, I mean, it's disappeared since, and
Yeah,
then it got reformed.
it went tits up in 1995.
Yep. And then when did it reform?
Uh, two 2008.
2008. So 13 years it was gone. But that is what the original thing was, and Shockmanites ended up leaving there and becoming neocons.
Mm-hmm.
And
Very
then,
much so.
yeah,
Prominent neocons.
permanent, yeah. And then the third group was the Democratic Socialists of America.
Well, then it
Who
was the Democratic Socialist Organizing Committee.
Okay, but I mean, it became DSA.
Yeah, it merged with the New American Movement to form
Oh,
the
I
Democratic
did not
Socialists of
realize they
America.
required a merger, but that's where you see people like AOC, squad members. They're part of DSA, and DSA, of course, is uh, their entire philosophy from the beginning was entryism. We're going to join the Democratic Party. We're going to change it.
That was certainly
And
Rick Harrington's attitude.
yeah, and
The leader
after
of the Democratic Socialist Organizing Committee, later DSA.
about what would it be, 50 years of 40 to 50 years of doing that, they finally got some people elected with some power in the Democratic Party, and they have the same politics of the Democratic Party they were trying to enter into
Mm-hmm.
back in the 70s. So they didn't actually make any progress. They were just
No.
able to bring it back to who they were trying to change in the first place.
Hmm.
Socialist movements go, or any movement goes to die in the Democratic Party.
Agreed.
That's what it is.
The
Now,
only argument is whether we need a clean break from the Democratic Party or a dirty break.
yep. And so I want to make sure people are aware of the difference, because otherwise we start talking about breaks and everyone's going to get
Hmm.
lost on that. But
A clean
now,
break is when we simply separate from the Democratic Party. So, no, we're going over here. We're going to form our own party, and good luck. But we're not working with you anymore.
no,
Dirty break is when we separate. We start running our own candidates. We start building our own party, but we don't completely separate from the Democratic Party.
oh, well, we're complete. I've never been one to be part of the Democratic Party in any sense of the form.
The last
But
Democrat I voted for president was Walter Mondale and Geraldine Ferraro.
that's the last time you voted for them?
That was the last time I voted for a Democrat. Yeah.
Okay, I voted Democrat in 2004 because I feared a second Bush term.
Hmm.
I mean, really, it was a second Cheney term. Cheney
Yes, yes, it
was
was.
so big on the unitary executive theory that, yeah, I thought we were going to have a dictatorship. I voted against it. John Kerry rolled over while the Greens, the Libertarians, and one other group were arguing that Bush had cheated in Ohio and it should have been Kerry. Kerry didn't care about it. Uh,
Democratic Party paid for the Green Party to follow suit, but no, I don't think they gave much. They didn't do any work to make it happen.
mhm.
Just money.
Okay, I didn't even
Not
know
really
Democrat
stick
Party
Green
was
Party, by
involved
the
at
way.
all. But one way or another, that was the story of 2004. I stopped voting, for Democrats whenever I had another option. I would vote for a Libertarian over a Democrat. And then eventually it got to the point where even if it was just a Democrat and a Republican in there, I just wouldn't vote in that race
Hmm.
because they were that close. And I think up through 2012, and if it weren't for Hillary Clinton pushing Donald Trump and Ted Cruz in 2016, you probably would have still had where there was no meaningful difference between the Democrats and the Republicans.
Hmm.
But thanks to Donald Trump, there is a meaningful difference between the Democrats and Republicans. You have your conservative party, which is the Democrats, and then you have your fascist party, which is the Republicans
Hmm.
at this
I
point.
agree.
And yeah, I wouldn't expect all all be bad people, even though their choice is really, really bad. But a lot of that comes from very pro-social, um, uh, pro-social emotions and intentions, pro-social behaviors that they're trying to protect the in group. Now, it's antisocial how it's applied in that it's splitting up the society and narrowing out, who's in an in group and whatnot. But it is still, a pro-social attitude that gets hijacked by fascism. Um, Now, I voted again in this case because obviously we had nothing going on we had no ground runway, we had no attention, we had no real chance of anyone even getting 5% in the election where they would get federal funding. There is now this significant difference between Democrats and Republicans. And with Project 2025 and the Supreme Court deciding that the rule of law no longer applied, it was going to be law and order. Donald Trump can do whatever the fuck he wants,
Hmm.
and nobody can stop him. I figured, yeah, it's probably a good idea to vote for Kamala. I'm in a swing state, Michigan. Um, let's just, hope that makes some sort of difference. Of course, she lost massively. I wasn't expecting her. I was expecting a close race for the most part. Then when I heard that the polls were messed with to keep them closer than they should be, I thought, you know what? Donald Trump ran such a horrible campaign. Maybe there's a significant push for Kamala. Maybe I didn't need to vote for her at all. Let's find out. Nope, other way around. Donald Trump uh,
Mm-hmm.
trounced Harris, despite being such. I mean, we had the Epstein tapes leaked right before this on Halloween. Here's Epstein talk about all the things that he did with Donald Trump and how he was still good friends with Donald Trump and had access to the inner workings of the White House. Epstein was there in Trump's first term. It's when he became a liability that, I mean, I'm going to say it. Trump had him off. I don't believe that
Somebody certainly did.
he committed suicide. That was not a suicide. And Donald Trump's the one who was both has motive and had access. He had the capability of doing it. Immediately trying to blame Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton wasn't president. She had no control over uh, the Bureau of Prisons.
Unless they gave her control.
Who gave her control?
The Bureau of Prisons.
Bureau of Prisons can't give her control. She had
Mm-hmm.
no influence there. That was somebody appointed by Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, these are Trump appointees. Let's not, because this is an actual conspiracy theory. Let's not say, well, it could be if it's not rational that it could be. But he ran such a horrible thing and he lost. And yes, Bernie is right. Um, Now, what I found that was interesting, if you look at the numbers, and I was looking at Wikipedia yesterday where I got the numbers, we had 5 to 6 million more people who were eligible to vote in this year around. Yet, we only had like a turnout rate of 53%. There were, Donald Trump lost votes from last, or they still count in California, which is taking forever. But Donald Trump lost votes from last time. Kamala lost a lot more,
Mm-hmm.
and she wasn't voted. And I'm saying definitely that has to do with the fact that she is. No, she ran way too far to the right. She alienated people. I've heard stories secondhand of people saying, "Yeah, I decided not to vote because I didn't like either candidate." That's what happened. It's not that the uh, the Latinos all moved over to Trump and black men moved over to Trump and the young men moved over to Trump. No, it's that those groups they didn't show up to vote because Kamala didn't offer them anything.
Mm-hmm. That's
Why should they go through all the effort to do that when they're not going to get anything out of it?
The Democrats have never produced anything during the realignment strategy, which began in 56, and was written down in 1960, and was pushed by the Socialist Party in 1968 when the war was going on.
The realignment strategy, elaborate.
Realignment strategy. It's still alive in some people's um, fantasies, I guess I'd say.
Well, describe what it is.
The realignment strategy is that social movements could change the Democratic Party into a social democratic party. And the engines for this were to be the labor movement and the civil rights movement. The civil rights movement has shrunk to practically nothing, and the labor movement is not powerful enough to steer the Democratic Party.
No,
And
absolutely not. And
I
they're
think
also too. They're too. It's not just they're not powerful enough; they're weak-willed. They always back the Democratic Party no matter what.
exactly.
They the Democrats can say, "I'm going to outlaw unions." Unions are going to back the Democrat
Mhm.
because they don't have the balls to back a third party. They don't, and I think that is one of the big problems. Is everyone is taken for granted by the Democratic Party.
Hmm.
And part of that is because you have these activists who go out there and you could take them for granted. They're going to vote Democrat no matter what. Then you
Hmm.
have people like were the primary force in this election, the people who stayed home. You couldn't take them for granted, but the Democratic Party assumed they could because they could take the union leaders for granted. They could take the LGBTQIA leaders for granted. They can take the black leaders for granted, the Latino leaders for granted. But when it comes to the rank and file of all these groups, you can't really take them for granted. They
No,
may not vote Republican, but they're not going to show up for you.
and you couldn't tell the Democrats that.
No, you can't. They have well, I guess they have their fingers in their ears. La 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 la. No, we went
I
too
can't show
far
you. I can't
left.
show
We
you.
need to move to the right. Even though they're moving further and further right, their immigration policy is a fascist immigration policy at this
Hmm.
point.
I agree.
And they went too far to the left. What does this
Well,
tell you?
walked.
What do you think we're looking at if this just continues? Let's say that there are future elections. We get
Yeah.
to 2040. What do you think the candidates are going to be like?
Oh, imagine it'd be Marjorie Taylor Greene versus the most conservative Democrat around. It'd be somebody
See,
like Marjorie Taylor Greene by 2040.
I
She'll be.
I see it being a Republican candidate whose stance is that Hitler was a Jew loving liberal cuck. And then you have a Democratic candidate, which is going to be the kinder, gentler fascist candidate, who is all about all the things that MAGA are about now. But they're going to be framed as communists by the Republican Party. That is the direction we are headed in. You become your enemy when you keep moving towards them. And the biggest issue is that uh, there's nothing that gets attention on the left that's going to bring people in.
You don't
There's
think the cause of
plenty.
genocide will bring people in?
I'm sorry.
You don't think the cause of genocide will eventually bring people in?
The, I think it's something that will fizzle out in the end once it's done
I'm afraid
or
you're
it's
right.
been there for a while, uh, because uh, there people aren't aware of other movements is the issue.
Hmm.
The media doesn't cover other movements. The only time I've heard them actually really cover the Green Party was back in 2016, 2 weeks before the election, when it was clear that a lot of people were going to vote for the Greens. They were at 5-6% at that point. And so they came out to just smear Jill Stein at that point. Made up things about her and vaccines that were loosely based on the truth, but very misleading to what her actual stances were. Um, and that is a serious problem we have here. How many people do you think are even aware that there was a Democratic uh, primary in 2024?
Well, they weren't aware of it in the states that didn't hold it.
There were plenty of states that held, not all of them. Some of them did do sneaky things where they decided, oh, we're just going to endorse Biden before the fact,
Hmm.
which is extremely undemocratic. But there were enough that you could have picked somebody else,
That's what
and
primaries are for.
nobody was even aware of it.
Yeah.
So people aren't aware, and you have all these people who end up sitting home, who could win the election if they ran, if they all got behind the same candidate. Everyone who stayed home, they would win with whoever they picked, as long as they picked the same person.
Agreed.
And obviously, that person's on the left right now because Donald Trump got his voters out there. They showed up for Donald Trump on the right.
I'm not sure all of them think they're on the right.
No,
I
but
think some of them think that they're
no,
populists.
anyone who is on the right, do you think there's anyone on the right who did not vote for Donald Trump? Who said Donald Trump isn't good enough?
Oh, Cheney didn't vote for Donald Trump. Neither Cheney voted for Donald Trump.
Let me rephrase it. Do you think there's anyone who did not vote because Donald Trump wasn't good enough for them on the right?
No.
That's my point.
I'm
All
just
the
not sure that
people
all
who
those
stayed
people think
home
they are on
didn't
the right.
vote. Those are people on the left.
Hmm?
Those are people who the Democratic Party lost because they moved so far to the right.
Yeah, I've met a lot of people who had never voted who were voting for Bernie in 2016 and 2020.
Yeah, Bernie was able to get a whole bunch of people behind him. Now, I was really pissed at Bernie because he stole the Democratic Socialist name.
Mhm.
Everyone thought that Democratic Socialism was opposed to socialism. It's like, what the hell? How did this happen? We finally get Democratic Socialism to be a popular idea, but it's not Democratic Socialism that people are excited about.
Yeah, people are, excuse me, a lot of people, um, they want the social democratic programs of the Nordic countries, and
Hmm.
they confuse that with socialism.
They often do, but what I saw in 2016 were people who were still confused to the point that they thought less than that was socialism or democratic socialism. That it was just simply if we have a government that has any social services whatsoever, that's democratic socialism.
Mhm.
Bernie really did a great job pushing for policies. He could not define democratic socialism.
He
And
did
I have
define it, but I don't think he defined it correctly. In his speech at Georgetown University, when he went over what he thought was social democracy, no, that's Franklin Delano Roosevelt liberalism.
mhm.
And he quite, in
I mean,
fact, he quoted Roosevelt
he
several
didn't really
times.
define it from what I saw. I try to look for where does he actually define it, and his definition was, I think that everyone should have health care if they work 40 hours a week.
I think
That's
he believes
not a
everybody should have health care.
definition. What?
I believe he believes every human being deserves health care.
Yeah, but that's not a definition of democratic socialism
I
or of
agree.
any political ideology.
I agree. I was once at a DSA, uh, what would you call it, a teach-in, and they asked everybody to write why are you a socialist? And I said, because I'm a member of the working class. We're always oppressed. I plan on living and dying a member of the working class. So I want a working class party that will bring about the changes I want to see. The person who was leading the group said, why don't you talk about healthcare? Because it's not socialism. It's reformism. Although I think we should be all in for reformism.
Well, healthcare is part of socialism, but it's not definitional of socialism by any means.
I know I have to tell people that over and over again. If we get national health care, we will not be a socialist country.
Yeah, that's not enough to do it. Certainly, having a post office isn't enough to do it. Having police and fire is not enough to be socialist.
No, not at all. And I have no idea why people confuse that.
You have no idea. I
Well,
think
I
it's
mean,
pretty straightforward. You have
well, and people are lied to, but I don't understand why they accept the lie.
there are it's because of the way that people have been lying about socialism for so long. On one hand, they decide that, oh, the Soviet Union, yeah, that is socialist, and you get a lot of propaganda about that. Socialism is this big bad dark thing because you're thinking of Joseph Stalin and the gulags and his crusade against the social fascists of people who are just homosexual. They all had to be fascists according to him. um I mean, literally, he wrote down that he thought that all homosexuals were fascists. I don't get where the logic was in that. But that's one hand. The other hand is, um, you have a lot of the conservatives of that time pushing against any social programs being by being hyperbolic and calling that socialism. And it really went unchallenged for decades because of the Cold War. And it just got into people's minds that anything left of anarcho capitalism must be socialism. Any response? Katie Ann,
Yes.
did you nod off there?
No, I was in a car wreck when I was working for the UAW, and I
Mhm.
occasionally have seizures, and I just had one.
Oh, okay.
I'm fine.
All right, all right. I'm glad to hear that. I was not expecting that. It's
I wasn't expecting it
you just
either.
suddenly fall asleep in the middle of that, and it's like, I know I'm not
That's what it
that
looks like. It
bored.
looks like I'm falling asleep and shaking myself awake.
Okay. Ooh,
Unfortunately, I had a severe head injury in that car wreck, but I remind myself that everybody else in the wreck was killed.
wow.
So maybe I didn't fare that badly.
Who was driving?
I was in park. My car was in park. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police had a roadblock up,
Mm-hmm.
and they were stopping all traffic. So I don't want to drift into the car in front of me, so I put the car in park, put the emergency brake on, and I'm laying everything the Mounties are going to want to see on the seat: driver's license, visa, passport, ownership papers for the car. Every time I lay something down, I see this car coming toward me, and I think, God, I hope that person's going to stop. She didn't. She hit me doing 70.
Oh,
Bounced off my car and hit the car next to me. Killed a mother and her 3 children.
oh,
It was really tragic.
yes, but I'm wondering if I can pull up really fast. Feel free to go if you have any commentary that you feel like you want to give right now.
Sure, I can fill space.
Come on, look for a particular image to share.
Uh, if I'm influencing you in any way, I ask you to go to the Facebook page for the Debs Caucus. We are open to people of a variety of socialist streams, but we are a socialist group. We're not, we don't want to give the liberals the bullet, but if you're liberal, stay in your liberal organizations. You've got the Democratic Party at this point. Please leave us to organize a socialist movement. And so far, we've had people from Socialist Party, Social Democrats, DSA, committees of correspondence. I'm hoping that we will eventually get people from Solidarity, and we've had a couple people from Socialist Alternative, which, and I guess we'll get people from whatever the split from Socialist Alternative calls itself.
A lot of splintering, and there's a wide diversity on the left
Mm-hmm.
for sure. You think it's hard to keep the neoliberals and the squad together. The difference on the left is way larger than that. You have people who disagree on fundamentally on whether there's democracy or whether there ought to be democracy or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my system probably needs a reboot, so it's taking forever to pull this up, even though I found the image. And finally, it's opening. I'm going to share that for a second.
Okay.
Once it's all the way up, damn computer has 32 gigs of RAM and still seems to take forever. Let's share.
Yeah, I've had things like that where I'm trying to download something and it just seems to take a week.
Mhm.
Reminds me of the old dial-up days.
I blame Windows. Windows just keeps getting worse and worse over time.
Yeah, when I had to reboot my computer earlier, the reason I was late, I'm trying to reboot, and Windows decided, well, this would be a good point to give you some updates. And which updates now? Update me later. Stop taking over my computer.
Here we go. Now, here is an old image. You
Mm-hmm.
have a odd to say looking at it, but that's a young Bernie Sanders
As a young Bernie Sanders.
speaking to the Socialist Party USA.
Mm-hmm.
Right there. What
Yep,
year would you say that would have been?
that's 1981.
1981. So 3 years before he left and became independent.
He was the independent mayor of Burlington, Vermont at this point.
Yeah, but he was still part of the Liberty Union Party, and they were still a uh, state party of the Socialist Party USA at that point.
Yeah, I'm not sure how involved at that point Bernie was with Liberty Union. I know he originally ran as a Liberty Union candidate, I believe for Senate.
But this is back in the days when um, he still was in the he was still a socialist back then.
I'd say he believes he's a socialist now. We simply disagree with him.
Well, he's definitely wrong there. Let's see if I can get this out of the share.
You're gonna make that picture large enough that people are going to see me, aren't you?
You're you're not in that picture.
I'm not in that one. I thought that was the one I sent you.
It's not the one you sent me. I sent it to you, and you said you were in, but you're still not in that picture technically.
Okay.
Why is it not letting me unshare?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
the third person over, and I'm not seeing myself. Thank God.
Okay. But
You
it
look very
wasn't
different.
you yet. It wasn't you yet.
No, no, it certainly was not me.
Yeah.
There's a guy with a beard.
Yeah, that's who that was.
Hmm.
You may have memories of it, but it wasn't you.
Okay, no, it certainly was not me that I am today.
Oh, yeah. Don't make Bobby Steele
That
yell
guy
at you
didn't
again.
spend 20 minutes on his makeup to be on a podcast.
Yes. And we both have had the honor of having Bobby Seale yell at us.
That's right. I also had Abby Hoffman yell at me. Abby Hoffman told me I was an asshole.
Um, at
When
least with
Abby
me,
Hoffman tells you you're
Bob,
an asshole, you may want to take it under advisement.
yeah, with me it was just that I was calling Bobby Seale to try to get an endorsement, and my phone started acting up,
Hmm.
and that's what made him yell at me. It was an old man yelling. It wasn't, he was personally mad at me yelling.
Hmm.
Ah, but that was fun.
He simply spoke of the campus that I was at, and I said something that he didn't like, and he let me have it.
I think you said you asked him where the bathroom was.
I think I was kidding about that, but
Oh, okay. I remember that story, even if you were kidding about it.
yeah, I think I was kidding about. It was something about what happened in the split of the Black Panthers
Oh, the split of the
in
black.
1973. The Black Panthers came apart.
I knew it ended. I'm not too familiar with why it ended.
Well, that's
I
what I was
do
trying
know
to
the.
find out, and he didn't want to tell me.
Well, I know that he definitely wants, or the old group definitely condemned the new Black Panther Party
Hmm.
as being racist. I think primarily because of their anti-Semitism. Yeah, they were principled though. They were Maoist, which
Yes, they
is
were.
less than ideal.
Well, Bobby Seale said they went to the China bookstore and bought hundreds of Miles Little Red Book for 25 cents. And
Hmm.
then they took them to the various campuses around the Bay Area and sold them for $1, making
That's
75
a high
cents on each
profit.
one. And Bobby Steele said after about 2 years of doing that, he decided to read it.
It took him 2 years.
It took him 2 years. I'm quoting him almost exactly, so I'm not throwing shade on Bobby Seale.
Oh, I'm a bit surprised. They did a lot for people who just decided they were going to try and make a quick buck, and then after 2 years,
Well,
decided to
listen,
start.
they were making a quick buck. They were selling. The profits went to the party.
Oh, went to the party. Okay, I thought this was something that happened before the party was formed. Like parties
No,
formed.
the party had already been formed, and they needed a way to make money. I don't remember when they sold the little. They got them for 25 cents. I think they sold it for $1 or $2 or something like that. And then everybody wanted a copy of Miles' Little Red Book. I don't think they ever read it. It was a nice thing to have on your bookshelf when your friends came over.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
I'm pretty sure I have one somewhere.
I have plenty of books I never got to reading, but
Nope.
none of them that are there just for conversation pieces.
No, those go to the library.
No, and I've got stuff from all over the political spectrum.
Oh, I can imagine you do.
Oh yeah. Um, I remember the embarrassment I had when I bought Mein Kampf. I'm like, please don't think I'm a Nazi. Please don't think I'm a Nazi because I'm buying this book.
Back in the very early 70s, it might have been 1970 itself. Abby Hoffman, I think it was 69 actually. Abby Hoffman came out with a book called Steal This Book.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to my local bookstore. They knew me very well. And I said, I laid $10 on the counter. I said, would you turn your back for a minute? I said, what? You turn around. And I stuffed a copy of Steal This Book in my coat and walked out.
Mm-hmm.
The book only cost $5.95.
So you paid
I paid
almost
double
double.
for the book and stole it.
Uh, I don't
You
think
get to
that
think,
qualifies as stealing.
well, I didn't pay for it. I didn't have a receipt.
You didn't have a receipt. You paid for it.
No, I made a donation to the bookstore, and I just happened, while I was making a donation, to steal Abby Hoffman, steal this book.
However, you need to explain that to yourself. But
Exactly. That's what I'm doing. I'm explaining it to myself.
I'm going to stick with you bought the book.
I know. I stole the book.
You wanted to steal the book. You just didn't want to harm the
I
books.
well, the guy was a friend of mine. I'm not going to steal from him. If it'd been if it was in Barnes and Noble, I would have tried to steal it
Mm-hmm.
without paying. But I mean, this guy's running a small bookshop that's surviving on its revenues. So no, I
I
didn't
do
want to cheat
think
him.
I do think it qualifies for entrapment if you do if you do get caught stealing the book.
Hmm.
You can
I
say,
could.
"Hey, I was the bookstore itself tried to tell me to steal it. You can't hold me
I'll steal
responsible.
this book.
Please have something here saying to steal it." Did they run out of the do not book above it?
Uh, I talked to Abby about that, and he said, "Yeah, I guess that's stealing the book."
So author says it counts. All right.
Yeah, I had to get Abby's approbation for my theft.
Uh, and I'm sure you eventually told the owner.
He knew what I was doing. He saw me pick up the book.
Okay.
It was a joke
I
between the
know.
two.
I know it was a joke. That's why I said I'm sure you told him eventually. I didn't think that he saw which book you grabbed.
He knew exactly what book I grabbed.
Oh.
He would ask me questions. Well, did you get to this part? He read it himself. He said, "Did you get
Mhm.
to?" Yeah. What'd you think?
Yeah. And now, what do you see? our path forward being here?
We need left refoundation, not just left regroupment. We need to start out with a platform that will appeal to working people. And that's going to be hard. We've got to win back a whole lot of people who went over to Trump.
I don't think it's hard to come up with a platform that appeals to working people.
Good, let's write it.
Yeah, the problem is getting attention there, getting people to say, yeah, okay, I'm not going to vote for the Democratic Party. I'm going to vote for this new party here. That's where the difficulty comes.
And we've got to emphasize what Debs said. I'd rather vote for what I want and not get it than vote for what I don't want and get it. Anybody who voted for Harris probably did not want her to be president. Or
Um,
didn't want that kind of candidate to be president, but they felt they had no choice.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
Oh,
don't want to form a
a
new party.
lot of the people who did turn out, and I think it was more. Oh, you do have the left wing activists of the Democratic Party did show up. The problem is that most people aren't activists.
No.
They're not going to show up because when they're not being offered jack shit.
Hmm. I am a um, compulsive political activist. In 1968, I would have been 12, and I was handing out leaflets for Bobby Kennedy,
Mm-hmm.
senior. Now, when you say Bobby Kennedy, you have to say senior to indicate the senator who was assassinated.
Yeah, RFK. I can imagine him right now talking about his son. That's messed up.
Yeah, he probably would slap him around.
Yeah, he's a little bit of a black sheep of the family, but yeah, he just helped a fascist get into power.
Hmm.
How
And
fucked
he's
up
going to
is
be the
that?
dictator of the environmental aspect of Trump's uh, seizure power, I guess.
I don't think he's in charge of the environmental part. He's in charge. He's going to be in charge of the medical part.
Uh,
So he's in
well,
charge of
actually,
taking fluoride out of the water. Um, getting rid of vaccines.
the
Um,
first one I'm for, the second one I'm not.
Fluoride is a mixed bag.
Hmm.
It does do a lot for teeth. It does not do a lot for IQ.
No,
Now,
I
it
would
does
rather
have,
they kept the fluoride out of the water, and I'll rinse my own teeth with fluoride. Thank you.
well,
I'll use
that
the
defeats
fluoride
the
toothpaste.
purpose. That defeats the purpose.
No, I mean, if the person next door doesn't want any fluoride and they don't care to put fluoride on their teeth or in their system, they're free to do that.
Okay. But then you're also paying extra for fluoride, creating a new cost.
Well, it's a new cost for me because I want the fluoride.
Yeah, when you would have gotten it for free. But definitely one of the big things there that comes along with people getting a whole lot more money from their jobs.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah, I'm sure you saw my video on what's happened since 1973.
I commented on it.
Did, I do not get many comments, so I don't remember them. Yeah, people, if you comment, you can comment saying you hate me and how horrible I am. It helps me get this out there. So feel free to comment hate to me. But anyways, we have the whole, what happened to wages since there in 50 years from uh from 73 when the split started and 23, no change significantly in the amount amount that people are getting paid. They're
In
technically one
24, it
step.
actually went down slightly.
I consider that an inflationary error if it's only 1 cent. But that's how. morally it's stuck on that the average wage stayed the exact same amount. It buys the exact same amount of stuff. Uh, but we were producing like 220 or 240% as much
Hmm.
in that time. We're not
And all
sharing.
that wealth is going to the elite.
Yeah, we should be even accepting the exploitation of our labor that existed beforehand. We should all be being paid 2.4 times as much.
Hmm.
You
That'd be
know,
fair.
yeah, you would be looking at uh, somebody who is making $10 an hour. Let's use 40 hours a week. This is, they say, your average fast food worker. Though I'm not sure they can get 40 hours.
They'll never get 40 hours. They'll never let them.
Multiply that by 52. That's 20,800 that they make doing that.
Hmm.
Not much at all.
No.
You might pay rent and then beg people for food, or steal from work because you're working fast food. But that would be 49,920 if it kept up.
Hmm.
That is a lot. Well, I'm assuming that I remember correctly. That was 2.4 times as much. But the point being, you'd be getting a shitload more money that you'd be able to pay for things, and you could afford to get your fluoride rents at that point.
Hmm.
But I don't think fluoride's causing any significant problem, even if the election results seem to point that way, because the issue is not so much the people that voted for Trump in the results, it's that people did not turn out for Kamala.
Hmm.
And the
They
reason
keep
why they
doing
didn't
that.
turn out for Kamala is on Kamala.
Well, it's on the Democratic Party too, because they keep giving us candidates that nobody likes.
Yeah, because they think it'll work towards the middle, because
Hmm.
they don't realize that people have the option of not voting. That if
Or
you
they have
took
the
Jill
option of
Stein
voting for a
out,
party.
Jill Stein got what, 600,000 votes or something like that.
I don't know.
Uh,
She got my vote,
Let me see here.
which is the only one I
As of
care
right
about.
now, 685,667 votes.
Oh dear Lord.
If she didn't run at all, you're not looking at Kamala Harris getting nearly 700,000 more votes. She might get 50,000 or 100,000 more votes, because most of those people just aren't going to show up at all.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's what you can't convey to people. The average little Democrat. Well, you know, uh, Jill Stein running. That's costing Kamala votes. No, those people would not vote. That went on and on in Florida.
I mean, I'm sure she costs Kamala some votes, but she also costs Trump some votes,
Hmm.
because people do not act as straightforward and rationally as you would think.
Yeah.
And whereas we may be thinking on a left-right basis when we cast our votes,
Hmm.
and the Democratic Party is assuming that a
Hmm.
lot of those people, they're thinking on, is is there change? They're not worried about the direction of the change. I don't like it here. I want change. So when you're running on status quo, it only helps if people like the status quo. It's like, hey, this is nice. Let's just stay here. We're not going to find something better. That's when it makes sense to be status quo.
Hmm.
But people are sitting there, and I am afraid that I don't have enough money. These bills are way more than they used to be. I'm not getting. I mean, yeah, wages went up overall. Not everybody got a raise. Another seizure.
Yeah, I was just thinking. I do that
Oh.
periodically. Never. It doesn't do me any good, but I do think once in a while. Yeah,
But
you
yeah.
can't run saying if you elect me, you will have exactly what you do now, which isn't much. But if
Mhm.
you elect the other guy, you're going to have even less.
Yeah. That's not something that motivates people to action.
Yeah, that's not a clarion call that gets people at the barricades.
Yeah, you need to. promise to improve things in some way, unless it is perfect, and it's obviously not perfect.
And we'll send you a $5,000, or excuse me, we'll send you a $2,000 check. Well, it's really only a $1,400 check, but
Yeah. Oh, that really pissed me off.
me too.
It's like, no, you can't count the $600 Trump gave us. You promise this
Hmm.
if what Georgia won the special seat. You can't
Hmm.
offer us only $1,400. Joe Biden still owes me a $2,000 check, as far as I'm
Yeah,
concerned.
I'm convinced that too. That would be a wonderful way to stimulate uh, personal buying.
You increase personal buying, but it's not the quite frankly, that's not the ideal way. The
No,
ideal way is to take it from the people who just sit on it, your employer, and tell them they got to pay you more.
yeah,
Or better yet, remove the employer from the whole metric, have social, actual worker control and ownership of these enterprises because we're the ones who are doing all the work.
hmm,
Management's purpose is not so much to get things done, but to keep us from getting our full pay. Is their point? They're there to keep us in line.
yeah. There's a thing called surplus value. If you work and you make, let's say, 5 widgets an hour, you're only getting paid for one, and all the rest of that profit goes to the owner.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's quite the right number, but it's
No,
yeah,
I was just picking numbers at random.
because I think it's for somebody who's making widgets, you're looking at I think a 3-to-1 ratio.
Okay,
You
how
make
about
three,
that?
you get the value of one. But a lot of people spend their entire lives, making something like a car and think, oh, I can't afford to buy a car.
Hmm. Yeah, I had to walk to work uh, so I could build cars. I worked with people who did that all the time. They walked to
Oh,
work and they took public transit.
yeah, and oh god, Ford tore up all Detroit's public transit back in the day. We had like the
Yeah,
best public transit in the nation. Um, what I think 1930s. He just bought it all up and scrapped it so he could sell more cars.
and more buses.
Well, that's part of public transit. He wasn't worried about selling buses.
Well, if they were made by Ford, he was.
I suppose, but
And it also profited the rubber industry that was making tires, and the oil industry that was selling gasoline.
yeah, and oddly enough, if we needed none of that, then them doing that didn't add anything to the economy. It's not
Yeah,
you got to find people something to do. It's what do we get out of it in the end? Those people who spent building gas would do better if they were building something, creating something that was still needed without having all those cars. But I
yeah,
still live in the Detroit
employing
area.
ourselves out of
I'm
existence.
relying on my car.
Yeah, if I didn't have seizures, I would rely on one. But if I blank out the way I did earlier in this conversation,
Yeah,
I
you
would
may
have
have
a wheel.
another accident just like that one.
Yeah, and I would be at fault at that point, and I might kill somebody. No, I don't want to do that. No,
Hmm.
I saw what happened. I don't know how she was so drunk. I don't know how she held the road.
Oh well, apparently she didn't. After
She didn't stop. I mean, you can see the lights on the cars making the roadblock for miles.
that. Oh yeah, that is fucking unfortunate.
Well,
But
it's like the old Chinese proverb. The guy says to his neighbor, "Well, it's a good thing you have your son working for you. That'll boost the amount of whatever grain, whatever the amount of rice you'll be able to sell." And the father says, "It might be good, might be bad." And the next day, the warlord came through
Oh, yeah.
town. Oh, well, they got a horse, so we could plow with a horse. You've heard this?
I've heard this. Doesn't mean everyone listening
Okay.
has heard.
Uh, they next guy the guy gets a horse, and the neighbor says, "Oh, you're pretty lucky to get that horse." The guy says, "Maybe good, maybe bad." The son tries to ride the horse, falls off, breaks his arm. And the neighbor says, "Oh, that's a bad thing. I'm really sorry for you." The neighbor said, "Maybe good, maybe bad." Then the warlord comes through town and shanghais everybody who isn't who's able-bodied. Well, it doesn't take the son because he's got a broken arm. And the neighbor comes over to his friend and he says, "So the warlord didn't take your son, huh?" He goes, "Yeah." He said, "Don't even tell me. It may be good, maybe bad. Hope it works out for
Yep, he could have risen to be the emperor if his arm wasn't broken.
you." Mm-hmm.
But that's one way to look at it. You never know the end, but the general trend of whether things are good or bad, I think we have a fairly good idea of that.
Yeah, but if I hadn't been injured, I wouldn't have come back to Johnstown and I wouldn't have met my wife.
Yeah. Now, Trump getting elected again, I think that does fall into the category of might be good, might be bad.
It's true. Gives
Probably
us
going to
room
be
to
bad,
organize.
but it may create some fundamental change finally.
That would be nice.
We
What I
failed
worry
with
about is,
many other chances to do this before, though, so I'm not going to say there's a strong chance it might be good, but
mhm,
there's a slight chance. And it kind of does require there not being a full Project 2025 dictatorship propping up.
yeah, we've got to resist that in every way possible.
Oh, yeah, I already have everything written for what I'm doing once we are done here. Because I didn't shoot the video last night. I figured shooting at midnight would probably be a bad idea.
The witching
Um,
hour.
be better for the algorithm, I think, if I put that out coming up after we finish up here.
May
But
I take the URL for this video and send it to people?
oh, absolutely. What
Okay.
YouTube creators like? Please don't share my work. Please don't help me get more views. Please don't help me get monetized.
I believe the laborer is worthy of her hire, so I trust. I believe in intellectual property. So this is your intellectual property, and
This
I'm not
is,
going to.
yeah, but this is where I'm also putting it in marketing it.
I see that.
Now, if you copied it and put it somewhere, then you might have to worry about it.
Well, I wouldn't do that. You know that.
I know, but I'm just saying that's when that would that would come into play. Here, I want people to see as much as possible. I want people spreading the link. I want people sitting here and watching for large blocks of time, not average of 14 seconds. I do get that a lot. 14 seconds.
13 seconds.
Yeah, that's the average because people are, I'm sure a lot of it's people clicking off after like 1 second, 2 seconds, but still, the algorithm,
How do you
yeah.
make a decision on anything in 14? Maybe I'm just old. But how
I
do you
think
make a
it
decision on anything in
starts my
14
video
seconds?
automatically after someone else is like, what's this? I don't know this. They look weird. Switch off.
Where's Taylor Swift? I don't see Taylor Swift in this video. I'm out of here.
It could be that, but I'm imagining it's more political. Political videos are going there. They're more like, where's Vouch? Where's Destiny? Where's
Oh,
Tim
Lord.
Pool?
Well, Vouch started out fairly small.
Yeah, and he has way too big of a fucking ego at this point.
Oh, Lord. The other thing is he's a genius.
He does. I mean, I think he is definitely above average intelligence by a significant
Yeah.
amount, but he does need more education to be rational. And I think he really screwed the pooch here by telling everyone he was very strong on when the primaries were just starting, pushing, we're voting for Biden, we're voting for Biden, getting people all locked in. So guess who they're going to take for granted? And I've spoken to some of his fans, and they're like, they don't take us for granted. Your vote, you are for granted. No, I'm not. You're literally saying you're going to vote for him no matter what. That is being granted. Your vote
Mhm.
is granted. That's what being taken for granted is.
I
It's
still say
I
Kamala.
I know that no matter what I do, you're going to do what I want you to do.
I still say Kamala could have won. I actually sent an email to her campaign saying this is how you win. You go, you find Joe, you get his old tired white ass, and you bring it back to the White House, sit him in a seat, put this on a teleprompter, have him read it. He calls Netanyahu. BB, this is Joe. Hey, come on, man. Come on. You can't be killing all those people. I'm going to cut off military aid. You don't stop killing people. And if you mess with me, I'm going to put corn pop on your ass. He's going to cut off something you missed a whole lot more than artillery shells. Hang up. Actually do it. You win Michigan, the president of the United States. It's that simple.
You know that the actual conversations that he's had with Netanyahu involved him saying that Israel does not approve of what you are doing in where am I thinking of?
Lebanon,
No, no, no. Where are the Uyghurs?
China.
Yeah, but what's the region of China?
Uh,
That's why I can't remember.
okay,
That's what I was
it's
trying to go for. That period, that area, because he's
sorry.
got the air. He's messing everything up. The man called himself the first. He's proud to be the first black woman president.
Mm-hmm. And he spent 50 years in the Senate and 10 years as vice president.
Yeah, I mean, you know that he internally understood what was going on. He just fucked up the words really bad
Mm-hmm.
because he was talking about Kamala. He's probably had the first black female vice president, is what he was trying to say. But yeah, the man claimed to be the first black female president.
In his mind, he probably is. Remember, he went to visit uh, Mandela, Nelson Mandela, when he was in jail. He tried to visit him in Soweto, which is 300 miles away from Robben Island, where Mandela was.
Hmm.
Everybody wants to pad their resume, but let's not say uh, you went through hell to visit a political prisoner when you never did.
A lot of people now. You know who does that a lot and is very good at doing it? Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah.
Is because before you can stop and think about what crazy ass thing he said, he's saying another crazy ass thing that's taking your
Hmm.
attention. Uh,
Yeah, and it's all stream of consciousness. You ever watch one of his speeches? It's just
yeah,
completely stream of consciousness. The man wouldn't be able to compose a paragraph. His life depended on it.
there's
But I'm sure
reasons
Joe Biden could
he threatened to
compose
sue his school if they release his grades
it. Hmm.
because he just, oh my god, the man ended up claiming that the Battle of Lexington was won when George Washington seized the airports.
He did say that.
Yeah, it's like you are so way off. It's during the revolution that they were amazed to go to France and see a hot air balloon. They did not have
Mhm.
airplanes. Yeah, that was another 125 years away.
Yeah, I have. I used to teach history for in high school, and I had a little pre-quiz to find out what my students knew about history,
Hmm.
and it wasn't much. Don't know much about history. No, you sure don't.
Oh god. Well, yeah, Americans don't um, really lack knowledge, and it's because we try to gear everything towards um, what are you going to do in the workplace? What you're going to do in the voter box doesn't matter, but the workplace, you got to
Mm.
know everything.
You gotta know
Um,
everything. Everything depends on the workers.
yeah,
And if,
it
and
drives me nuts. I keep seeing all these calls to drop algebra 2. This was what you took in the 8th fucking grade to teach people how to do taxes and like five other things that are going to change by the time that you actually get into the workforce and are on
Mhm.
your own.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, no, that's not the way to go. I've used algebra, I've used calculus to play a video game before. There's
Really?
uses you can use for it. Yes. I was trying to calculate the ideal amount of um, God, it would be residences in a game called Earth 2025.
Okay.
Now, mind you, this is a game that came out in the 90s. So this was a, though ironically, it was a post apocalyptic world. Perhaps it was more prophetic than you would think. This
That's
is,
what
yeah,
you're
it's
always
an
afraid
online
of.
video game. And you start with this 100 acres and you try to build your country up, and like acres come out of nowhere and whatnot. You don't have to just explore. You attack somebody, you gain more acres than they lost somehow. But it made the
Okay.
game work. That was
I
okay.
had
It
to
made
adjust
the
my
game
seat there. That's what I was doing.
But yeah, I've used calculus to play that game.
Okay.
Uh, how do you be
Is that,
more effective? There's things that you can do. You'd be surprised. But more importantly, it teaches you how to think.
mhm.
Gets you thinking about hard problems and how to get around it. That's where you get critical thinking, even if you don't use that particular skill. If you don't use algebra again for the rest of your life, you still learn something from learning it that you can still apply.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Sorry. My chair.
I got you on your phone, I imagine.
No, I'm on my computer.
Okay, it seems like it's really pointed upwards at this point. So I thought, uh, anyways,
I
point
can fix
being,
that.
I thought you hit on there. But uh, any other thoughts before we end this?
Yeah. I am quite distraught about where we are in uh, our evolution as a nation and our evolution as people. I don't understand how Americans can just put out of their mind the genocide in Gaza. It's on your computer, it's on your phone, it's on your news.
Those are
You
human
can't avoid it.
lives.
I'm sorry?
Those are human lives.
Those are human lives. People say,
People,
well, Gaza is only um, one issue. No, it's 2 million.2 issues. Every single Gazan is an issue. I remember back in I I'm old enough that I was involved in the tail end of the anti-war movement, and I would hear people say, "I can't get the bombing out of my mind. Little kids being napalm, I can't get out of my mind." And I'm a kid, I'm thinking, "Hey, there's sex, drugs, and rock and roll."
and
Now I'm the person who can't get it out of my mind.
it strikes me that we have this giant right wing movement across the globe. And the reason it's there is because the neoliberal order that's spread itself across countries just is that adamant in keeping the left out that they open the door for fascism. Just
Mhm.
like the Weimar Republic did.
Mhm.
That coalition, it's we got to stop the left no matter what. Fuck it, we'll make Hitler chancellor.
Yep, much better than the communists and the social democrats.
Yeah, they thought it was gonna, you know, tamper him down, cool him off once he has to actually govern. Didn't work for him, didn't work for Trump, didn't work for Netanyahu,
Yeah.
doesn't work for any
Um,
of them.
well, they've all come down pretty hard on the left, but then Obama came down on Occupy, crushed it.
To be fair, it was Obama's White House. He probably okayed it, but I think it was Biden who was actually running all that.
I wouldn't be surprised.
No,
When you
he was.
say president, you usually mean their administration.
Yeah, but I'm thinking about who's actually behind it, actually
Yeah.
running. it seemed like it was a Biden thing.
Yeah, and just like Biden ran the Maidan coup.
Yeah, I swore Biden was a horrible choice because I thought he's not going to do enough to stop climate change,
Mm.
and he hasn't. He's not going to rise to the occasion because we just had a fascist try to overtake the fucking government,
Mm.
have a coup d'état. You need to actually address that. That is what the next president's number one issue has to be outside of climate change, which is existential. He didn't want to deal with it. No, we're gonna let that be. We're gonna pretend everything's all okay because I want to have my legacy, which I planned out since I was in my 20s, long before any of this happened. And the last thing was I thought he was going to legitimize Trump. And I think
Mm.
he really did. That was a big factor in Trump being able to win this time around. Because after January 6th, people would have turned against Trump if we would have really pushed the idea that this is unacceptable. Trump's going to have to pay for this. But he wanted to play nice. He wants status quo.
Yes, that's go with a fascist. Great idea.
But okay, we will have. Thanks for coming on. We'll have you
Thank you for having me.
another time. I do
I
have.
enjoyed this, and I always have wonderful, frank conversations with you. Let's keep it up.
Yep, we do have to do it again on other issues for sure.
I agree.
But I do have another stream I'm going to be doing
Okay,
soon. Probably grab some food before I do that.
good
We
idea.
also have at about 7 p.m. I should have Socialist Party USA vice presidential candidate Stephanie Chelensky on.
I like her. I'll have
Um,
to tune in for that.
all right, yeah, just keep watching the channel. Things are gonna be popping up. If you didn't catch it, I sent on Facebook to you the link to the presentation I gave in July that I just put up on the YouTube channel. So I went from not putting anything up on YouTube for a few months to just slamming with a whole bunch of content at once. And let's see what comes from it. But
Let me
thank
throw in a very brief commercial before we end.
all right.
The Debs Caucus will be having on November 19th a commemoration of Transgender Day of Remembrance, when we remember those trans people who were taken from us by violence. And you're all invited. And Veronica, I hope particularly you will come, and we're asking people to read a group of names of the people who've been killed, and I hope you will join us.
I do tend to be good at guessing what names should sound like.
Good, you're in.
All right. Well, I
Thanks again.
I will try. I am extremely busy.
I
I'm
understand that kind of
already
system.
There's already some that was due on Thursday that I didn't make because I was fucked up over the election results.
Mm-hmm.
That I should, that I needed to turn in this weekend. But here I am trying to still deal with election stuff. This is my cope.
Yeah, I see that.
All right. Thanks for being on.
Thanks again. Best of luck, comrade sister.
You too. And here's end stream. I gotta remember where everything is.